Hey guys, so Stitches has been reworked, and the rework is something that I've been kind of asking for on Stitches, kind of in the background. I mean, people on the Discord have known that I've wanted reworks for heroes like Stitches, Artanis, Garrosh, anyone who can kind of pull people away from their team. To an extent that it makes team fights 4v5s, because one, that's only fun for 50% of the group. It's not a mechanic that's very fun for other people. And in high ranked games, when we were watching Stitches in pro play, while the hook was kind of fun to see immediately, it wore off its fun very, very fast, as it was something that you would immediately watch a 4v5. So I always said, cut Stitch's hook range in half and then double all of his stats. Like, not essentially not those as harsh of those. So what they did was they lowered the range of his hook, but not by as much as I expected them to. And I think this is going to make Stitch's players really happy, because he's still going to have the same hook mechanic. It's just going to require him to be in a little bit more of an aggressive position, not by much. They only lowered the range by about 10%, maybe a little bit less than that. So generally, he can still hook people from really far away, he can still hook people from over walls, and he can still hook people and really, really punish them. But now, he's gained a few things that are a little bit interesting, as well as some talent changes. The other thing that I didn't really like about Stitches, one of my favorite builds was the Slam build. You got to pick a Slam talent all the way down the build, but a lot of those talents were kind of dead. And what I mean by dead is the first one gave 40% damage increase. That's a pretty good buff. Then the next one made it to where your Slam applied Vile Gas, which pretty much didn't seem anything more than a damage buff. You might as well just say, your W does 10% more damage. And then level 7, your Vile Gas did more damage. Which again, all that essentially said was, your Slam does more damage. They weren't interesting talents. They just were all damage based until level 16, where you had a talent that made it to where your Slam slows all targets, and it does a what's it called, and it lowered the cooldown. Well, now they lowered the cooldown baseline and gave you the slow on your level 16 anyways, and they've changed around some of your talents that they could be a little bit more interesting. He does feel like a brand new hero in terms of all of his talents and quests seem more new and unique, which is cool. So let's get into the things that they've changed. So Helping Hand is still baseline. You can still hook an allied hero if you want to, and the Q talents are still low. If you hit someone with Helping Hand, it's lowered to half. Hook range was decreased by about 10%, but it still does damage, and there's now more quests based off of hook. It's not just the best quest or the best talents all the way down and then just grabbing a hook talent at level 16. There's actual hook talents all the way throughout the tier, which is pretty cool, or all the way throughout the thing. Slam now has increased range, and it also has a lower cooldown, and it does more damage to targets that are closer, as well as slowing targets that are closer. For example, you can see it did a crit to those two. Let me toggle cooldowns really quick. So if you see this, it's doing 50% more or 40% more damage to the targets that are close compared to the targets that are far. The size is much bigger, so you don't really need to pick up that size talent if you don't want to, as well as that slow makes it nice, because then you can hook a target, you can slow them, and then you can kind of like they need to like slowly walk away, meaning that you can follow up your own hooks now and set up. It's kind of like a Blitzcrank style, where you pull him in, and then Blitzcrank had the ability to knock up whoever he pulled in. It's the same idea. For those that don't play League of Legends, similar character style. It's pretty much in every MOBA they have a hook-based character. So you pull someone in, you slow them, and now they're trying to get away, and get a crit off on them, and now they're trying to get away. So the cool part about this new Stitches is that all of his talents will work with all of his builds. While he might change his playstyle to be more tanky, more bruisery, more aggressive, he still needs to use all of his abilities. While in Slam build, you almost never needed to hook, and while in Hook build, you almost never needed to slam, kind of the same problem that Azmodan had, you now have all of your abilities kind of synergize well with each other. Devourer deals 700 damage to non-hero units or 250 damage to heroes, restores 20% of Stitch's max health. Pretty much the same as it was before. Vile Cleaver, they've changed to where instead of you taking damage and applying it AoE, you now apply it AoE when you auto attack things, and it's a pretty good range. You can hit the side minions of a wave, and you could apply it to each of the other side minions. When you get a new wave, if you let it actually fully reset like this, you can attack just the middle minion, and it applies the dot to everything, and then you can kind of go through and use your slam, which crits. This allows Stitches to actually have a decent amount of wave clear if you ever wanted to like double soak lanes, or just simply be a tank that can apply more pressure onto a battlefield. So that's the change that they've made to all of his basic abilities. Now getting into the talents that he has. At tier 1, they've given him some quests and a pretty cool talent. The Hungry for More, every 15 globes that you get, excuse me, getting a regen globe increases your maximum health. This goes forever. Okay, you can get an infinite amount of health if you just keep getting globes. Every 15 globes you gather permanently increases your movement speed by 5% up to 20%. You could be running at Rhaegar's Ghost Wolf for the entire game, but that would be requiring 60 globes, which is rare to actually meet. So on average by the late game, you'll likely be anywhere between 10 and 15% movement speed bonus, which is good enough if you combine that with the fact that you're also applying a lot of slows to the enemies. You can really move around the fight. I think in an auto attack build, this might be kind of neat. This will also be a pretty cool talent for ARAMs if you ever count those as a mode that you want to pick talents for. Savor the Flavor, they moved this talent up a little bit, but they also nerfed it a little bit. Well, no, okay. So they shoved two talents together. So this used to be two different talents. One was that you would have a permanently stacking health regen every time you use your E. It used to be two, now it's one, but it's also, you can get it earlier so you can stack it faster. Or start stacking it earlier. The next thing is they combined it with the talent that made it to where you heal 10% of your max health over 5 seconds, and they also added mana into this. So if you wanted to be in a solo lane, you could pretty much pick this talent, keep farming off your enemy, as well as gaining health and mana back, staying in this solo lane for a long period of time. Finally, they added his increase the regen and healing effects talent. They cut it in half, but then they also gave you a second benefit of it. Whenever nearby minions die, you gain 66 health, and takedowns increase or restore health as well. So you're getting this huge amount of healing at level 1 in all of these talents. You can either have a huge amount of health and movement speed and be moving around the battlefield. You could be gaining health regen, a ridiculous amount of health regen, or you can just get a ton of healing during fights that are near waves. Say, for instance, you're on Volskaya. All you have to do is walk up, kill a minion wave, and you'll gain like half your health back. All three of these seem like really cool talents at level 1, and I can't even, normally from face value, I can tell you the builds, or that the talents that might be the best in each situation. I honestly can't tell you. I think that Savor the Flavor is going to be good if you ever use him as a bruiser in a solo lane, and I think the healing effects is probably going to be the better one to pick that early, as it's going to help you tank, heal more, and if you happen to get a takedown, then your healer doesn't have to heal you as much. Hungry for More might be really good, but that movement speed, because the way movement speed works, it doesn't like stack with your like Putrid Bile. It will work in like Gorge builds, as you'll be able to move faster and get away from enemies faster, but I don't know if that will be the build. It could definitely be it though. Level 4, let's just pick let's pick Patchwork for now. Level 4, you get Serrated Edge. You hit a hero with a hook, deals damage equal to 5% of their maximum health. This allows you to hook a bruiser or hook a tank and actually still be able to really burn them down. Oh, by the way, we also got these little icons, so if you have bonus healing or reduced healing, they show up next to your name. They're pretty good. And it also lowers the hook cooldown. So if you keep hooking people, you keep getting hooks back faster. I really like that mentality because it's more skill based. If you land one and you're good at landing hooks, then you're going to be rewarded even more so, rather than just throwing hooks out randomly and then you land one and you win the game. It's more about landing hooks consistently, and it's okay if you hook someone who's a little bit beefier, because now you're going to start them right off 5% health lower and with a slow that you couldn't do before. Slam reduces other basic ability cooldowns, so this can make it to where if you are going that bruiser build where you need to keep using this to keep healing, you could lower the cooldown of your E by 0.5 seconds, increase to 2 seconds after or for the heroes that are hit by its inner impact area. So if you're bruiser and you're attacking a melee hero, you could step up, you can use your E, then immediately use your W, and it's going to lower the cooldown of your E by 2 seconds. Just kind of, it's not very much. But you can slam a couple times and really reduce the cooldown of your Devourer and just be really aggressive in the solo lane. And then there's Chop Chop. Slam increases basic attack speed. Hitting an enemy hero in the inner impact grants 50% attack speed for 4 seconds. Remember, you're also going to be slowing people, and you're also going to be applying a damage over time that does a decent amount of damage. So let's use Chop Chop, and I'm going to kind of show you a little bit of what it looks like. You can kind of slam them here, and then you can immediately start attacking them very quickly, and that's a decent chunk of damage. For 4 seconds, you do about 2,000 damage, and that's really, really quick. So you could do something that might have been a little bit under 4 seconds too. So you could pretty much do like half of an assassin's health at level 20 if you do pick up Chop Chop. That could also be the solo lane talent instead of playtime. If you don't care so much about getting these stacks really, really fast, you could just pick up Chop Chop so you can be more of a damage bruiser. I also like it because it could be just a little bit of a damage tank too. On to level 7, there are 3 really powerful talents again. Blight, you can activate it to apply Vile Gas to nearby enemies. Enemy heroes that are hit receive 20% less healing, kind of a counter heal, which is really nice. Vile Gas now heal Stitches for 33% of the damage done. So if you went anything that really was about getting the Vile Gas out, or you go the attack speed, you can make it to where you attack really fast, get the Vile Gas, and you heal based off of that. There's Cannibalize, which makes it to where your basic attacks heal you. Hitting a basic attack or the inner impact of your slam will heal you for 2% of your max health, which means even though there's Blight talents there and it synergizes well with Chop Chop, sometimes people might still pick up Cannibalize, as this allows you to attack really fast and heal. And there's Tenderize, basic attack slow for 25% for 2.5 seconds, and refresh the duration of Slam's inner impact area slow. So you can basic attack and slow for 25%, or if you slam them with your W, they get a 40% slow, and every time you auto attack them, it keeps the 40% slow on them. Another thing where if you're just going a hook build where you're just trying to hook people in, slam them, and then stick with them for as long as possible, the Tenderize is going to really allow you to do that. Probably won't be a talent picked in the solo lane, as we would likely see one of these two in the solo lane, probably the extra healing, as this is Vile Gas heals 33% of the damage dealt, not just to heroes, but also to minions. So if you were to pick up this and you start hitting minions, you're going to heal for a lot there. So generally these are all good talents, and we can kind of start seeing him being pushed into 2 different directions, a bruiser side and a main tank side. Things that have a little bit more utility, a little bit more CC, we're going to see in the main tank. Things that might have more healing and damage in the solo lane. The ultimate abilities are pretty much unchanged. They're about where they were before. Slightly different cooldowns, but generally they're about the same. They both went up in cooldown, if I remember correctly, and I can always double check that afterwards. So you can still do the same Gorge things or the same Putrid Bile things. Just remember that when you gain the 20% movement speed, that does not stack with the Hungry for More. So we'll be picking up the Putrid Bile. Now at level 13, this is the talent tier that usually isn't that big of a talent tier for a lot of heroes. It's one of those that it's okay to fight down 12 to 13 usually, unless you're against like a Jaina who gets Icy Veins at 13. So at level 13, he gets Lacerate, Slam, spreads Vile Gas, and reduces armor. So it's not just about spreading Vile Gas, but it's also about reducing the armor. This does not need to be within the inner zone or the outer zone. It just happens to the entire Slam. So if you do like the Slam playstyle, then this is your first major piece for the Slam build. And Devour reduces the enemy's damage dealt. If you were in the tank build, you're likely going to be doing this so you can devour the one target you need to, so you can reduce their damage. And then Gas Flare is kind of his own variation of the fiery armor, and it makes it to where he does 35 damage per second to nearby enemies. Hitting an enemy hero with a hook increases his damage by 150% for 4 seconds. I don't like that it's conditional to hitting an enemy hero, because this won't really add to your wave clear. If you just want to add to wave clear, you're just going to get Slam effects enemies with Vile Gas, or you're just going to pick a different talent in general. So, and it's only for 4 seconds. I feel like if you're going to hit a hook, your team's likely already going to kill the target. So this should last like 8 seconds more to reward you for landing a hook rather than anything else. However, in the middle of a team fight, it's not too hard to hit hooks on targets that are already there. So if you're in the team fight and you're going with a Putrid Bile, you're slowing everyone, it's not too hard to just quickly hook someone to get that extra 150% damage. So just to kind of give you an example of how much damage this could do, say you did a Putrid Bile on someone, you did a slam, and then you hooked them, you could be doing a decent amount of dot damage just to those targets. Almost on a single target, you're doing about 300 DPS without auto attacking. And if you combine Chop Chop with the, let me use it on just a single target really quick. So with Chop Chop, you do your ult, hook, slam. Oh, now I'm doing it on 2. That's unfortunate. Let's let that proc out. While we're letting that proc out, we'll still go about these. But I don't like that they got rid of Retchling at this level, because Retchling was one of my favorite talents that I guess you couldn't really pick up that often because there were just better talents. I would have liked them to see Retchling be put on a talent tier and given a little bit more like of an annoyance factor. All right, let's pop my ult, pop this, pop that, hook, and then auto attack. And on a single target, you can do about 450 DPS while you have your ult going. To an assassin, that means that you can kill an assassin in about 8 to 10 seconds. That's pretty good in a team fight, as Stitches, when he pops Putrid, tend to have really long team fights. So that's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's the way to go, but it is kind of interesting. On to level 16, we see the fishing hook return. However, we don't see the piercing hook anymore, which a lot of people liked it. Shish Kebab was the name of the talent. A lot of people liked it because it allowed you to hook people over their own wall. So say they were hiding behind a tower, you could hook them through the tower and pull them through. And that's why a lot of people liked Shish Kebab, was because it was kind of a surprising talent. But they got rid of that. They got fishing hook. And then they have Meat Hook, which heals you for whenever you hook someone. And then for 4 seconds, Stitch's basic attacks against the hero refresh the healing duration. So if you hook someone and you keep attacking them, it's the same playstyle as what I explained earlier, where you're going to be hooking people during team fights and then utilizing that. So essentially how this will work is in the hook build, if you wanted to go a more battle-oriented hook build, you're going to pick this up. Then you're going to pull people in, you're going to chop them while tenderizing them to slow them in your Putrid Bile, in your Gas Flare, and you're going to keep resetting the slow, you're also going to keep resetting the heal, and you're going to be melting him during this entire fight. So that's probably how the battle hook Stitches playstyle is going to be, and then you still have your Pulverize to do the slow with your slam. So you combine that with lowering their armor and spreading vile gas, you're also going to be slowing them. So there's 2 variations of his builds for sure. If you want to be a battle Stitches, there's a hook battle Stitches, there's a slam Stitches, and then there's still his old hook build where you just hook people from forever away. And then you just use different talents to try to slow them and keep them near your team, possibly gorge them. So in this case, the hook battle Stitches is what we're going to still be picking the talents for. And then I didn't pick the Tenderize, which would probably work best for it. And then at level 20, we have the Putrid Bile lasts longer, slows more. That's exactly what it was before. Hungry Stitches, same thing. You can teleport, gorge multiple people. And then Devourer gains a charge, reduces your heroic cooldown. So your Devourer gets 2 charges, and the enemies hit by Devourer reduce the cooldown of your heroic ability. And then Shambling Horror makes it to where you're resilient to slows, and you can activate it to gain armor. So this used to just be a slow removal tool. Now it makes it to where your movement speed cannot be reduced below 100%, and you still gain that armor. So it just used to be... Sorry, this used to just be armor, and now it's got kind of a variety of uses. And that is new Stitches. So to give you guys kind of an idea of what build I think that might be used is we might be seeing, again, some bruiser type builds utilizing Savor the Flavor. We might be seeing a battle hook Stitches that uses something like a Chop Tenderize, the Gas Flare, and a Meat Hook. We might be seeing still the same hook build if you just liked playing the hook build. The slam build, they kind of moved it around, but they made a lot of his basic slam talons baseline. So while your slam's not going to be as wide as it is in that one build, it's still going to have a lot of the same pressure and do probably a lot more damage than it did before. That's Stitches. I'll be trying to get some gameplay footage of Stitches throughout the week, so Feel free to check out my videos later in this week, and you'll be able to see those as we get them out. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll have the Sylvanas one out in probably a couple hours, and we can see the new reworked Sylvanas as well. Don't forget, I do have a new Patreon if you want to support my videos, keep them going. Feel free to check the description below. It gives a lot of exclusive content to the patrons.